What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we have one of my favorites that we do every single offseason, where today we are going to talk through the zero RB draft strategy and go through how I'm implementing it in 2023, how it works, what leagues it works in, how you can do it from the early, middle, and late draft positions, everything that you possibly need to know. This is one of our many draft strategy videos that we're going to be having this offseason. I'm probably going to make a playlist with all of them at some point today. So with all that being said, we're going to get into the zero RB draft strategy. As always, if you enjoy, make sure down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm frozen. She gon' let me.
Now, what is zero RB, right? The zero running back draft strategy, RB0, some people call it. I just call it zero RB. And just sort of the rough guidelines to start here. My rough guidelines for zero RB is you don't take a running back through your first 5 rounds in a draft. You ideally have an elite quarterback or elite tight end. And the goal should be to have enough wide receivers to fill your flex, right? So your wide receiver spots through your flex, plus another 1 or 2 wide receivers by round 10. Now, we'll sort of expand a little bit later on why that is in terms of the flex spot. But the idea behind zero RB is you pass on running back early, because they've been rough picks recently. They get hurt a lot, they fall off, they have high bust rates, and this is a really cool article or study that Josh Hermsmeyer did a long time ago. This was like in 2016, but it still holds up today, and I'm sure I could do a more recent version of this, and the results would be very much the same. He did a study, Josh Hermsmeyer on RotoViz in 2016, that showed the top 24 ADP wide receivers and the top 24 ADP running backs, and their serious injury rate. A serious injury is an injury that held a player out for 4 or more games, so something that's a little bit more serious than just sitting out for 1 game. And 45.36% of the running backs sustained a serious injury among the top 24 ADP running backs from 2009 to 2016, and then wide receivers just 18.3%. That is running backs getting hurt at almost a 2.5x rate than wide receivers. So to this point, and to beat this point into the ground, running backs, because they're getting hurt and because they're falling off the age cliff and because, they have a short span or short health life, they're busting at a high rate. Where this is a chart from Pat Crane's legendary running back article from 2 years ago that still holds up today, and it takes best ball win rates, and he found across the board, round by round, who was having a sub 5% win rate. Now, your average win rate, you win 1 out of 12, right? 12 people in the league, 1 person wins. 1 divided by 12, 8.3%. So if a player has a sub 5% win rate, right, everybody that drafted this player is winning under 5% of their leagues. These guys are absolutely killing your teams. When we look here, running backs are almost doubling up on wide receivers in rounds 1 and round 3. Round 2, it sort of comes together pretty close, but across the board in the early rounds, running backs are busting at a really high rate. Now, when we look back historically, the only reason to really take a chance on that running back, and it's kind of the whole idea of what Pat Crane said in that legendary running back article, it's to have access to unmatched upside, right? Since 2010, wide receivers and running backs have about the same amount of 20-plus point per game seasons. This is in full PPR, by the way. But if we go to just the last 2 years, right, when we're talking about this screenshot, you can think of in the past, like 2017 through 2019, you have like Todd Gurley, McCaffrey, David Johnson, Le'Veon Bell. Even more recently, Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara. I'm trying to think through years past where there's like this dominant 22.5 plus points per game, because again, that's where the running backs have, they're like doubling up on wide receivers, whereas like just 20 plus points per game is low enough that wide receivers can kind of compete with that. But the issue is that we haven't had one of these 22.5 plus point per game Christian McCaffrey type seasons in a really long time, or not a really long time. We haven't had it in 2 years. We haven't had it since Kamara and Dalvin Cook in 2020. So when we just look over the last 2 years, wide receivers have 6 20-plus point per game seasons to just 4 running back seasons. This is using minimum 10 games played. And then they have 1 22.5-plus point per game season to 0 for running back. So over the last 2 years, wide receiver has closed the gap on that unmatched upside that running back once had. So wide receiver is now a position that is much safer than running back, but then can also compete on the high-end point scoring-wise with running back, which is what makes zero RB such a strong draft strategy in kind of this current NFL landscape. Now, even on underdog in a half PPR setting where running backs are not even really much at a premium, or at half PPR they should be at a premium, but the wide receivers get pushed up. And even with those discounts on running backs, where you guys see on underdog running backs go a little bit later than they might in your home league, running back in the early rounds still have been minus EV picks even in a half PPR. Now, this is advance rate over and under expected. The advance rates for running backs across the board rounds 1 through 5 has been pretty awful. Now, the idea here, and the reason that we're using best ball win rates, is that we can sort of see at a broad scale what the macro trends are in fantasy football. I know we're going to get a ton of comments that are saying, Ron, best ball win rate doesn't apply to home leagues. From a macro perspective, it does. There's no other way to compile thousands and thousands of real money leagues with actual money on the line, like 18 plus years old, 21 years old. I'm telling you, for this video, I was doing mock drafts on Sleeper, and the ADP there is broken. It had like Alvin Kamara was like a 4th round pick, and like Kittle, it was like pushing up all the onesies, and like there was like 5th round Dalvin Cook and like Dameon Pierce. It's not super. Leagues are a little bit sharper than that these days, and most leagues as well. People say, oh, but Underdog has a lean towards wide receiver. Well, one, it's half PPR. It is 3 wide receiver, 1 flex, but most home leagues these days are minimum 2 wide receivers, 2 flex, 3 wide receivers, 1 flex. You can start 4 wide receivers at a time in most home leagues. So it's a similar setup to your home leagues, and I think it's pretty actionable just to see macro trends, and then not apply apples to apples, but just apply the macro trends. Now, the thought process here was 0 RB, and this sort of like, RB, not even the RB dead zone, but just rounds 1 through 5, running backs have been bad picks. This is data from the last 2 years. Rounds 1 through 5 has returned bad advance rates for running backs, and the thought process with 0 RB is you sort of let your league mates take shots on running backs and sort of sift through this sea of red here while you stack up an advantage at wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, and then once the water is fine, right, round 6 on, it becomes a good pick to take running back, right? All of those green advance rates. So again, you let your teammates sort of, swim in the sea of red, and then once you have an established foundation, you come over the top and you start hammering running backs in this round 6+ area. So 0 RB is not only a great way to, establish a foundation, get late round running backs that are good to pick, but it's a good way to sort of leverage the most recent draft trends or the most recent like NFL trends with running backs sort of being on the decline. But it also leverages the randomness of an NFL season, and it leverages kind of late season upside, which is what we really want in fantasy football. Now, Sean Siegel touched on this way back when he first dropped this 0 RB article in 2013 called 0 RB Anti-Fragility and the Myth of Value-Based Drafting. And he calls 0 RB anti-fragile in the way that it benefits from the randomness of a season and only gets stronger as the year goes on. Like, that's the beautiful thing about 0 RB. If you can weather the storm early on, you can build absolute super teams that are really scary to deal with in the playoffs. And sort of this is how he breaks down anti-fragility and what it means. He said 0 RB is basically what it sounds like. You simply don't draft running backs in the high leverage rounds. Depending on how a draft is progressing, I would draft either one high upside running back in rounds 4 or 5, or I would draft none at all. My preferred lineup after 5 rounds is to own 1 tight end. This is 2013, so he said Graham or Gronk, but I imagine that you could probably say Andrews or Kelsey these days, and 4 wide receivers. I then focus on selecting potential breakout players, the receiving backs in timeshares, and backups in good offenses. You can see fairly easy how 0 RB benefits from randomness. Whenever a starting RB gets hurt, my lineup gets better. It gets better in relation to my opponents because I didn't have the player in question, and it gets better because of the sense that I either own the backup or I have a shot to acquire the backup in free agency. So pretty much the battle of attrition of an NFL season, as everybody else's early round running backs are getting hurt, your lineup is then getting stronger. You either have the handcuffs on your bench, or you're one of a bunch of people that can sort of go on waivers and grab that new running back. So your team is built to stay strong, benefit from the randomness, as everybody else's team is more fragile, built around running backs that get hurt, and sort of break down as the season goes on. So you sort of build this team that is built to come alive and be monstrous down the stretch of a season. And when the money is in the playoffs, right? Playoffs are the thing that matter the most in fantasy football in terms of just winning the money up top. You want the team that's going to be the best over the late season. So if you can sort of shoulder and weather the storm early on, you can build monsters with 0 RB. Now, the whole idea is that you wait on RB. You want to be strong at quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, in the flex spot. Notice how I included flex. Like the flex, this is the biggest takeaway from this video, and it's the biggest mistake I see people that are like first time drafting 0 RB make as a mistake. They draft enough wide receivers to fill their wide receiver spots, and then they go away from the position. And this is something else that Sean actually did a follow-up article on called Struggling with 0 RB. This is in 2020, so this is 7 years after his original article. Struggling with 0 RB, you're probably not drafting enough wide receivers, and I really want to hammer this home. I see this all the time. We play in these high-stakes redraft leagues. We streamed one last night. I'll probably stream another one on like Sunday or something. But we hop in these. These are redraft managed leagues, $350 on the line. I think it mimics a little bit more of what a home league might look like. And I see this all the time. Team 9, he starts out strong, right? This is a 3 wide receiver, 1 flex full PPR league, right? So 4 wide receiver spots. Team 9 starts strong, right? He goes CeeDee Lamb, he goes Devontae Adams, he goes DK Metcalf. The issue is that he bailed out too early, and this is a common theme I see all the time. Justin Herbert in round 4 is more than fine. We want an elite quarterback or tight end, so he did that well. But passing on Mike Williams in the 5th for DeAndre Swift, that's a mistake if you're going to go 0 RB, right? He dives into the spot where we want to be avoiding those running backs in round 5. He misses out on that Mike Williams to Justin Herbert stack, and then he proceeds to not only take Swift in the 5th round, but he then takes 4 more wide receivers, or he takes 4 more running backs here. He goes DeAndre Swift, Alexander Mattison, Dalvin Cook, A.J. Dillon, Khalil Herbert, over solid wide receiver options every step of the way. Like, he could have gone Dotson or JSN or Jordan Addison or Elijah Moore, and now his flex options after his 3 wide receiver spots are now, right, assuming that Swift and Madison are his 2 running backs, his flex options are Dalvin Cook, A.J. Dillon, Khalil Herbert, Allen Lazard. That is not how you build your 0 RB team should have the most stacked flex of all time. It shouldn't be that type of, your flex options should not be Allen Lazard, Khalil Herbert, A.J. Dillon, Dalvin Cook. It should be 2 to 3 stacked wide receivers. So now the whole point of 0 RB, right, is to be strong at quarterback, tight end, wide receiver, and flex. This team started 0 RB, bailed too early, and now has weaknesses at running back, flex, and tight end, which is no good. The only position advantage it has is quarterback and 3 wide receiver spots. Now, of course, this team can still crush, right? You can hit on this year's Josh Jacobs or whatever, and it can be good, but you don't want to have to hit a Hail Mary to be good. Now, why do we want wide receivers in the flex, right? Why can't we have A.J. Dillon and Khalil Herbert as our flex spots? And it's because we want wide receivers in the flex in full PPR leagues, where we see here, this is based on FFPC ADP, which is high stakes managed leagues. Wide receivers, once you get past the first 3 rounds, you get into the rounds of rounds 4 through 10 here, right? It's about pick 30 through pick 100 here. The Win the Flex tool shows here that in PPR leagues, wide receivers project to outscore running backs from rounds 4 through 10. We want wide receivers in that range. That's when we're drafting flex spots. We want wide receivers through the flex. Now, the idea here, and the rule of thumb for me, is to draft enough wide receivers through your flex, plus another 1 or 2 by round 10. So if you have a 2 wide receiver, 2 flex league, you should have 5 to 6 wide receivers through 10 rounds. If you have a 3 wide receiver, 2 flex league, you should have 6 or 7 wide receivers through 10 rounds, right? You have 3 wide receivers, 2 flexes, that's 5, and you want another 1 or 2 through 10 rounds. If you have a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, you shouldn't be doing 0 RB. Now, this is the next point, right? This is sort of wrapping up what we've learned so far and what I would sort of break down as the guidelines for 0 RB. Only use this in leagues where you can start minimum 4 wide receivers, all right? The way that I view flex spots, even in half PPR, are pretty much wide receiver spots for me. So 2 wide receiver, 2 flex, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex. I want 4 wide receivers plus another 1 or 2 through 10 rounds. If it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, I get questions like this all the time. This is the league settings. Can you use it? Again, anything under 4 wide receivers that can be put in your lineup, do not use 0 RB. If it's standard, do not use 0 RB. Half and full PPR, I think, is just fine for 0 RB. I will say the more wide receivers you can start and the heavier the PPR, the better for 0 RB. Of course, no running backs through 4 to 5 rounds. Ideally, you want an elite quarterback or a tight end. And then the goal should be to have wide receivers to fill through your flex spot plus another 1 or 2 by round 10. So when we talk about the results of 0 RB and what it did in 2022, 0 RB crushed in 22. It's an undisputable fact, but 0 RB was the nuts in 2022. We look here. This is a $150,000 winning team on FFPC. So that's a high-stakes redraft managed league. Now, this is tight end premium, but this is similar to a home league where you're starting players, there's waivers, there's start-sit decisions. There's no trades, and it's tight end premium. That's really the only twist here. And this guy turned $350 into $150,000 in a 2 wide receiver, 2 flex league. He gets elite tight end up top in Travis Kelce. He gets an elite quarterback in Mahomes in round 7. He goes 4 wide receivers from rounds 2 through 5, so that's wide receivers through his flex. And then he takes Chris Olave in round 9, so that's wide receivers through the flex, plus 1 through 10 rounds. Elite tight end in Travis Kelce, elite QB in Patrick Mahomes, and of course he hits on Josh Jacobs. That is just That's the nuts, right? That's just how that has to look. Again, this is a beautiful, beautiful version of 0 RB, where, again, no running back until round 6, wide receivers through the flex +1 through round 10, elite QB, elite tight end, literally textbook. And then he also got Jerick McKinnon late, and that's all it takes, man. That's all it takes. Josh Jacobs, McKinnon, and this team absolutely crushed. Again, $350,000 to $150,000, and this is a managed league, so I don't want to hear anything about best ball. And then even on best ball, it absolutely crushed on underdog. It absolutely crushed. If we look at teams that had their first RB, so RB1 taken after round 5, so this is RB1 taken in round 6 or later, your average advance rate is 2 divided by 12 on underdog, so 16.7%. The average advance rate of taking your RB1 after round 5 was 23.9%. So that's like a huge advantage over your expected output. And then if we even zoom out larger than that, the BBM regular season champ absolutely balled out. This was a 0 RB team that won $1 million, had the highest scoring team from weeks 1 through 14 on underdog. $1 million, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex format here. He goes Devontae Adams, Kelsey, A.J. Brown, Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Hurts, Burrow, Miles Sanders, his first running back taken in round 8, and then Garrett Wilson. So Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receivers through the flex, right? So 3 wide receiver in the flex. And then he takes a 5th wide receiver, right? He goes through the flex plus another wide receiver in Garrett Wilson through 10 rounds. That is how it's done. So it's pretty funny. 0 RB crushed last year, despite we got a lot of pushback. We always get pushback on our 0 RB videos. It's funny, like 0 RB is probably the most universally accepted it's ever been here. Where, I mean, this this was from our 0 RB mock draft last year that the counselor absolutely shit on. Which, by the way, the counselor I think is a funny guy. I just found it funny that he took the 0 RB. He's like, 0 RB, please don't. And to be honest, the team would have crushed. Now, Darren Waller and Kyler Murray sucked last year, but we would have had, with this team, you would have had Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Devonta Smith through the flex, so that's pretty sweet. And then we would have also had Jamal Williams and Jerick McKinnon as like our 0 RB running backs there. If we worked waivers and figured it out at quarterback and tight end, to me, that team would have been great. So we also got these comments like every year on these 0 RB draft strategy videos. Been playing FF since 2003. 0 RB only works in non-competitive leagues. I just showed you 2 instances where it took down 6 figures and 7 figures. So 0 RB, very much viable. You can use it in home leagues. It's a nice way to zig when other people are zagging, especially in like RB-heavy home leagues that are like, you know, half PPR, full PPR, and you can start 4 wide receivers at a time. Now, I also want to show you guys how I'm applying it to 2023, how I'm actually sort of implementing it in 2023. We're going to do mock drafts on Fantasy Pros. I'll say expert consensus expert consensus rankings on Fantasy Pros seems to be kind of the closest thing to what I've seen actual drafts look like. So we did these mock drafts on Fantasy Pros. Now, first up, we did a mock from the 101. Now, I do want to say before we get into these, make sure you check out patreon.com/Ron Stewart. For all of these, to be honest, I was sort of like looking off of my rankings. Right now, I have my top 200 rankings cheat sheet for redraft, PPR, and half PPR leagues on the Patreon. Patreon.com/Ron Stewart. There's a link in the description and at the top of the comment section down below. You click on it. It takes you to patreon.com. I have my rankings there. You can download them for yourself. You can print them out. There's a little checkoff thing. You can check them off. There's a top 200. I'm bringing that cheat sheet with me into every single draft, even these mocks, just to kind of look off and see, okay, this is who I would have drafted here. And I plan on doing a big update on Saturday, but they're really nice. They're all tiered. And I even have like my ideal draft round that I'm taking every player. So you can kind of see, okay, I'm looking up, okay, it's a 7th round. Ron thinks that this guy's like a 6th round value, so that's a great pick there. So if you have a home league coming up that you want to dominate, check out patreon.com/Ron Stewart. But if not, let's talk through the 101 here. All right, so Jefferson, for me, this is the most obvious spot to use 0 RB this year. Is you get the 101, you get the wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy and Justin Jefferson, and then you just sort of take the best value that makes it back to you at the 2-3 spot. Now, I will say, for all these Fantasy Pros mocks, we did 3 wide receiver, 1 flex. Again, if it was 2 wide receiver, 2 flex, which I know is also really, that's actually the settings for my home league, I promise you I would be doing the same exact thing. In PPR leagues where you can start 4 or more wide receivers, I'm treating them all the same. 2 flex or 1 flex versus 3 wide receiver, 2 wide receiver. Doesn't change a thing for me. Your league mates will probably change how they draft because they want to put running backs in their flex spot. The only time I'm putting a running back in my flex spot is if a crazy value falls to me. Let's say I start like Bijan, Saquon, and I get them both at really nice values, and for some reason JT makes it all the way back to me in the 3rd. I would take JT there and go 3 running backs, and then boom, you can have that running back in your flex. But after like the top 3 rounds, I don't want running backs in my flex spot, ideally speaking. So, again, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receiver, tight end, and a flex spot, full PPR here. And when we get back to the 2-3 turn, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon, Chubb, Pollard are all gone. Those are all the running backs that I would debate taking at that 2-3 turn. They're all gone. So what I ended up doing was I had like Olave in a big tier. I had Olave as the clear pick at 212, and then I had a big tier of Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, and Andrews. I decided, it's 0 RB. You want to make sure you're getting some elite quarterbacks or tight ends. So I decided to stack the positional advantage. We go Mark Andrews. We get sniped on the Lamar stack when we get to the 4-5 turn. Lamar goes at the 4-11, sadly. I had a tier of I had Jerry Jeudy clearly ahead, so we went Jeudy, but then I had a tier of Drake London, McLaurin, Christian Watson. You can take your pick of any of them there. We go Jerry Jeudy and London. I want to make it clear as well, this isn't really a player takes video, so if you disagree with any of these players, you know what I mean? If you prefer Devonta Smith or T. Higgins over Chris Olave, knock yourself out. I'm just trying to show you guys structurally what I'm doing here. So then we also go to the 6-7 turn, and I will say through 5 rounds, this is ideal, right? We have wide receivers through the flex spot, and an elite tight end, which is pretty much what Sean Siegel said is his ideal start. Now, with the 6-7 turn, we have our pick of Herbert, Fields, and then Deontay Johnson versus JSN. And we go Justin Fields. It's a 4-point passing TD league. You don't need him stacked either, which is sort of a beautiful thing just because he has so much rushing upside, and you don't need any. You can get a Cole Kmet late if you want, but that's about it. Then we went JSN or Deontay Johnson. We decided to go JSN over Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson at the 701 is a pretty wild value. Usually he's a 5th, 6th round pick in a lot of places. But I decided to go JSN for this reason. It's something to really think about when you're drafting 0 RB teams or just wide receiver heavy teams in general. We have wide receivers filled through the flex. Deontay Johnson's a high floor play. And if we don't need this wide receiver 5 to start in week 1, theoretically, right, he's going to be on the bench, I'd rather swing for maximum upside because Deontay Johnson doesn't reasonably project better than any of the wide receivers we've already taken. So I'd rather take a home run swing on a rookie wide receiver and hope that he can be, this year's Garrett Wilson, Christian Watson, Amon-Ra St. Brown the year before that. Or even on the off chance that JSN is the guy that some people think he is and he has a Jefferson Chase type rookie year 1. I'd rather take a swing on that than a high-floor Deontay Johnson. Now, if we had taken, let's say a running back over Drake London or something, then I think Deontay might have been the pick there. But I just want to make note that it depends for me what's going on in terms of my wide receiver room based on, the floor and everything like that in terms of, who I'm trying to pick later on. Now, the 8-9 turn comes around to us. Elijah Moore goes right before we're on the clock, which to me is a huge tier break. From Elijah Moore, Quentin Johnson, Michael Thomas to Darnell Mooney, Juju, Jacoby Myers. That's a massive, massive drop off. So we get James Cook at the 8-12, which to me is a great value. You can take your pick of Penny, Gibson, AJ Dillon. We go Rashad Penny here. Give me good offense, good pieces of good offenses, which is pretty much the theme here for the rest of the running backs. Where James Cook, Rashad Penny, A-Chain, Elijah Mitchell, all running backs in good schemes, good offenses. We get Jerome Ford, a nice little handcuff. And then it's pretty cheesy. But in these leagues, and I imagine your home leagues, Mingo and Mims are going to go really late. Mingo, Mims, Rashee Rice, and Jaden Reed are all guys where if they're going to fall to the end here, necessarily we could have gotten more running backs here, right? It is a 0 RB build. Maybe we should have gotten one more. But I'm going to take swings on those 2 rookie wide receivers. And then, let's say Mims isn't getting routes early on or nothing really pops. We can just drop them and turn them out for waiver wire options if those wide receivers aren't really doing anything for us early on. So this is an ideal 0 RB, pure 0 RB team where we have, elite QB, elite tight end, wide receivers through the flex, JSN off the bench, and then a bunch of running back options with sort of James Cook and Rashad Penny up top. Now, moving on from that, we have kind of our next spot here, which is from the middle of the first. And I think this is the next ideal spot for 0 RB. Is it seems like in a lot of home leagues, I was sort of looking around, it seems like Austin Eckler is going to be going at the 2-3 spot in a lot of home leagues, which to me is kind of crazy. I would be taking Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp over him. The earliest I could take Eckler is 6th. I would prefer McCaffrey, Jefferson, Chase, Kupp, Tyreek to Eckler. But he's going to go early. He's going to push these wide receivers back. And when you've been drafting on Underdog Fantasy, make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy, promo code Ron. I have a link in the description, and I'll have it in the comment section down below. Click promo code, or you click the link, it'll take you to Underdog Fantasy. It'll use promo code Ron. It'll match your first deposit up to $100. And it's just a feel thing. Amon-Ra St. Brown. So these are the values from from Fantasy Pros, but Tyreek Hill is 3rd overall pick on Underdog. We get him at 107 here. And again, this is a full PPR start for wide receivers league, just like Underdog. But Underdog is best ball half PPR, which I think cancels out. And then we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's like the 201 on Underdog. And then we have Devonta Smith, who's like the 210 on Underdog, and Deebo Samuel, who's a late 3rd. So we get 4 wide receivers in a full PPR that are huge values compared to where you can draft them on Underdog. I'm telling you, it's the best way to get ready for your league, Underdog Fantasy. The ADP is sharp. It's all real money. The ADP is made from real money, people over 18, over 21, where all these other sites that have mock drafts and ADP is just ADP based on, you know, little kids playing in these free mocks, and like the ADP is all noisy and it's still carrying over from like January. Like it's not all that updated or sharp, but Underdog can get you right, get you ready for your league. So make sure you check it out. The app is amazing. You can just draft while you're on walks or on a long car ride. It is truly a beautiful thing. Again, promo code Ron will get you a deposit match up to $100. But how we did this league, or how we did with this team, is Tyreek falls to us. We got a bunch of smashes again through Deebo. Now, through the 4th rounds, right, we have wide receivers through the flex now. And if you go 4 straight wide receivers, and now 5th round, if you draft another wide receiver, that guy's just going to sit on the bench before you have anything else. It's not an awful pick. You can definitely do it, but it's definitely time to start looking around at like quarterback and tight end. If like Aaron Jones or somebody like that fell to the 5th round, he'd be in consideration as well. But instead we go Justin Herbert. We go an elite QB. We went Fields last time. We went Herbert this time. And Devonta Smith over Chris Olave in the 3rd round was just to change things up because we already went Olave in the last one. When we go Darren Waller in the 6th round, we knew Darren Waller or Kyle Pitts was the pick there. We knew one of them wasn't going to make it back, so we go Waller. And then Cam Akers makes it to us, and that's kind of the beauty of a 0 RB build, is you can kind of just sit in the pocket and wait for something to fall past ADP. Cam Akers a guy who's like a 5th, 6th round pick on most places. He comes to us in the 7th, boom, perfect RB1 for a 0 RB build. And then we get Quentin Johnston. We get a nice little stack to Justin Herbert there, and that gives us wide receivers through the flex, +1 through 10 rounds, which is what we're gunning for, which is perfect. Now, we don't take another wide receiver until Rashee Rice there because we spent so much capital going 4 straight wide receivers. You only need like 1 more extra through 10 rounds for that to work. So then from there, it's time to just hammer running backs. We go Antonio Gibson. We take some upside shots on rookies and Zach Charbonnet and Kendre Miller because we don't really need them to start right away. And then we go Gainwell and Gus Edwards as just sort of like depth pieces that will sort of like churn and burn through waiver. So overall, this is another fun team. Again, elite quarterback, strong tight end. Everything is strong besides the running backs, as a 0 RB team should be, right? Everything is good to go. We're stacked through the flex. We have Quentin Johnston and Rashee Rice off the bench for our wide receiver spots. This is ideally how I'd want it. I'd also say, so again, this is what I would do in the middle rounds if like Kupp, Tyreek Hill fell to me, and like one of these values of, I have a tier personally from Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. To me, there's a pretty steep fall-off to like your Waddle, Olave, T. Higgins area. So if one of them falls back to the middle round after you take Tyreek or Kupp, I absolutely love this. Now, if Amon-Ra St. Brown was gone, to me, this pick is probably Jonathan Taylor. It's probably Jonathan Taylor or maybe Jalen Waddle. Now, I'll also say you could do something similar with Kelsey. If you like Kelsey and he falls to like 7 or 8, you can take Kelsey and then you just swap Darren Waller out for pretty much a wide receiver of your choice in this area. Like who went here? You know, you could swap him out for like Michael Pittman, right? So instead of Tyreek Hill and Darren Waller, this team could be like Kelsey and Michael Pittman or Kelsey and Mike Evans, however you sort of want to play that area. But I think Kelsey is definitely a strong start for 0 RB build as well, just given what we know about wanting elite onesie positions. Now, here's our last spot that I think really makes sense for 0 RB builds this year, and it's the late first. And if I get to a spot where Bijan, Eckler, and McCaffrey are gone, now I do want to make it clear, I think Eckler's a mistake, and like, you know, I've seen him go like 3rd overall, 4th overall in some places. To me, he's like the clear 6th, 7th overall guy. So it's like not a massive difference, but it's not ideal to me to take him that early. But I would take Eckler in the 1st round. Bijan, Eckler, CMC are the only running backs I'm taking in the 1st round this year. I do like Saquon, Chubb, JT, Pollard, whatever, but these are all guys that you can always get in the 2nd round. To me, they don't really, I don't feel pressure to take them in the 1st round. So if those three running backs are gone, I'm likely taking a wide receiver there. I want 2 of, right, if I'm at the late 1st and those 3 running backs are gone, I want 2 of that wide receiver tier again, right? So like Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, in whatever order you like. Here we go CeeDee Lamb at 11, and then we go A.J. Brown, which is a really fun start. Both of those guys have first-round ADPs on Underdog. And then we go to the 3-4 turn. And here we go. I like Debo over Metcalf, but we went Debo in the last one. We go Metcalf to change it up. And then I wanted to show you guys a little bit of a curveball here, right? Like sort of a modified 0RB build where we go Jahmyr Gibbs in the 4th. Now, of course, this is full PPR. And in the guidelines, right, the guidelines say, no wide receivers, if I could possibly pull it up, but no running backs through the first 4 to 5 rounds. So I just broke that guideline, and I just want to say the guidelines are just that, right? We say this all the time. We said it in the last video. People liked it, but only deal in absolutes, right? So the 0RB guideline is don't draft a running back in the first 4 to 5 rounds. But if Gibbs falls to you at a value in the 4th round, you can make that pick. The whole point is to be able to, bend the rules and bend the guidelines and stay fluid in draft teams. You don't want to be very rigid to these draft strategies. So you can sort of adjust on the fly here. And I just wanted to sort of show you what it looks like if a running back value falls to me. I'm not going to take a wide receiver just for the sake of, okay, I started 3 wide receivers. We now have to force a 0RB build. You don't. You can take a stab on running back here. And I sort of wanted to show you how I take a stab earlier on running back than I usually would in a 0RB build and sort of how I recover here. So we take Swift in the 4th, 5-6 turn. Take whatever wide receiver you like. You could go Ayuk if you want. We went Godwin, and then it was time to grab an elite onesie, right? We have wide receivers through the flex. We have a running back early, and now we take Kittle, right? You could have gone like Herbert or Fields instead if you'd like, but in this build, we're sort of just fully punting quarterback and taking your elite tight end. You can't be stacked everywhere. If you take a running back earlier than expected, you can't do like the last 2 builds. You can't have it all. You can't also be elite at quarterback, tight end, and then also running back, and then also have it be a 0RB build. There's not enough value to go around for that to happen. So then at the 7-8 turn, we go Jordan Addison, which is a nice rookie upside pick. Again, he's not going to be in the starting lineup week 1, so we're taking a shot on a rookie wide receiver here. And then we get DeAndre Swift to fall to us in the 8th round. We scoop up that value. Absolutely love it. And then the 9-10 turn comes around. We get Zay Flowers, so he's going to be our 2nd wide receiver. So we go wide receivers through the flex plus 2 through 10 rounds, and that's our last wide receiver in this build, Zay Flowers. And I like the idea of having those 2 rookie wide receivers to kind of be upside shots on top of the 4 we took early. Like, again, you don't want those to be high floor type of plays. Now, after that, we just take more shots on running back. We go Devin Achane, Tank Bigsby, Jalen Warren, just a bunch of upside sort of shots, guys in ambiguous backfields or handcuffs. And then we take 2 quarterbacks to stream at the end, and Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. Again, if you take a running back like Gibbs early, it's hard to also be stacked at your quarterback and tight end. So because we got a little bit better at running back in this build, we had to punt off QB. But like Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, I'd kind of be more than fine with as my QBs. Now, I do want to say my final thoughts on 0RB, right? That is how I would be implementing it in this year, in this season. 1, it is not this like magical like strategy that's going to like, that I'm saying is the best strategy in the entire world. It's not. But it's a nice fun curveball to have in your toolbox to zig while others are zagging in a running back heavy room. It's just a nice way to kind of throw out a changeup, try something new in a league of people that are very running back hungry and sort of rigid with the past. I wanted to show you how I'm using it in 2023. It's something that if I do, let's say I do 10 drafts, I'd say probably 1 or 2 of them will end up being 0RB. It's not something I do every single draft room. It's not something I force. Please, 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 as well with these draft strategy videos. We did our double hero RB. This is 0RB. We're going to have another one next week for hero RB. Do not go into a draft saying, okay, I'm going to try out Ron 0RB here. No, no, no. Like, we're going to do a video after I go through all of them. But my ideal draft is I just go through the first 3 rounds, draft whoever I want based on value, and then from there we just can kind of mold it into one of these draft strategies. So please go into draft rooms with an open mind. Don't be like, I'm going to force this draft strategy or plan it out too far. The whole idea is to have these strategies thought out so you can kind of audible on the fly and remain very flexible in draft rooms. So with all that being said, if you enjoy, if you have a draft coming up, make sure you check out patreon.com/Ron Stewart. My top 200 half PPR and full PPR rankings is on there. I have it set up in a way too, where I kind of have it in those tiers that I was talking about, where the like Garrett Wilson through Stephon Diggs tier at wide receiver, boom, like that's sort of pushed up to sort of guide you there at that 1-2 turn. I have all of those dead zone running backs, so we don't want to be drafting in rounds like 4 through 6. I have them pushed back to like round 7. We're pushing up the wide receiver values, and it's just a way where yes, my rankings are player A versus player B, but they're also very structure oriented, where my rankings almost naturally lead you down the path of these draft strategies. So if you want the same cheat sheet and checkoff list that I use in every draft myself, That'll be on patreon.com/Ron Stewart. On top of that, you get my weekly waiver wire rankings, my weekly rankings, my rest of season rankings, my Patreon-only start-sit streams every Sunday. You get the entire package, plus my Dynasty stuff. It's all there, patreon.com/Ron Stewart, in the description, in the comment section down below. But if you can't support there, likes and subscribes go a long way. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm